Hello everyone, Melody here, mama of 4 and our blended family of 6, homeschooler of 2. And today I'm going to do a video all about my final stages of planning for the upcoming school year. One of the first things we're going to look at here is what I've done for the past few years, so you can see a comparison of where we were at and where we're headed and the differences. I actually really like the methods that I used for the past few years for planning purposes. I think it worked really well, and I would encourage you, maybe if it looks something that's interesting to you and you would like to do it, then try it out. Something I don't think I'm going to be able to let go of, something that I almost feel like my life as a homeschool teacher depends on, is sticky notes. Little tiny sticky notes. Medium-sized sticky notes. These things are a lifesaver. Sticky notes, sticky notes, sticky notes. Invest in them, my friends. In the past, I've just gotten this daily planner, which it's like $7 on Amazon. It is set up for like a regular school. It's got a schedule, all that kind of stuff. And I would go in the beginning of the year and I'd write our rough schedule because we were very scheduled, which is exactly what we're trying not to do. But I really like how simple it is. We just have Monday through Friday dates and then subjects you can write in where you want, and then you bring in the stickies. And basically what I would do, because if you're new to homeschooling, you may not have experienced this, but if you homeschooled for any length of time, you know plans change constantly. And so when you have a planner and you go through and use the colored pens and the colored pencils and you write it in there all nice and neat, it's really enjoyable, in my opinion, to do that, and it looks pretty and you feel really well prepared. But a week or two in and it's a hot mess because you got to erase this and scratch that out and redo this and redo that. That's why I love the stickies. So I would take my little sticky notes, which are about the same size as these little squares. I would write our plan on the sticky note and then just stick it in here. And I could actually plan out my whole year like that. And so it really was an all-day event doing our plan for the year, but then the plan was done. And if something needed to be adjusted, let's say we've got, for art, we have our plan right here and we didn't get to it, it's really not a big deal. You just pull out that sticky note, switch it to the next day, and pop that sticky note in next time you think you're going to be able to finish that lesson. And then it has also worked for me for record keeping. After they finished a lesson, I would just take what was written on the sticky note and I would write it into the book. I can look back and see what we actually accomplished. Not just what we planned, but what was happening. And then of course, I can write it in as much or as little detail as I see fit. Given that this has worked really well, you might be asking yourself, then why change anything? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The answer to that question is, one, I like to mix it up. Change is fun and exciting. Change is hard, but it also keeps things interesting, both for me and for the kids. Two, the bookworm is going to be a 7th grader next year. So I'm actually starting to look towards high school transcripts and how we're going to create and build those for her. She also has the potential of earning high school credits as a junior high student. I don't expect we'll be doing that her 7th grade year, but the following year, her 8th grade year, if she's doing work that is high school equivalent, then I'll absolutely give her the credits for that towards high school. And so this is kind of like what I would call a practice year. The last reason we're making a change is because if you've been following our channel, we're working on doing less to do more, while I'm working on doing more specific record keeping for the purpose of transcripts and high school credits. I'm also working towards having my children having a little bit less structure in how the materials are presented to them and in how they're expected to complete the materials. When I showed you our previous daily planner, this was very structured. The majority of the time, we finished the curriculum. Any particular curriculum we had, we finished it. And I'm coming to realize it's not necessary that we finish it. If my kids are getting to the point where they're like, I hate math, but we finish the math book, I really feel that that isn't to their benefit. I would rather not finish the math book and have them enjoy math and really absorb it more because they enjoy it. And so we're gonna do some more retroactive planning as opposed to having everything laid out and highly structured. In order to do that, I've made a couple block schedules. So let's take a look at those close up real quick. All right, let's have a quick start with my guides that I'm using this year. This first one, this is just for me. It's helpful to me to have a block schedule and a reminder on what I need to be doing. Definitely it's helpful to me to have some times where I'm like, turn your phone off, unplug, don't be in on that. And then of course, I have YouTube stuff I'm working on, Instagram stuff, and writing. So yeah, that's all me. This next one is what the kids will be using for their day-to-day, what are we working on? Instead of having that schedule in that planner that I showed you earlier, where everything is broken down super specific, we're just gonna follow this guide. We've got that 4-3-4-3 setup that I've talked about before because of our parenting schedule, but I'm hoping that this will help me to not overload our daily schedule. If we just have a few things that we're working on as group activities, that's what that first half is, and then individual work in the afternoon, and we can spread it out. If we're looking to get more specific, then I have a block schedule for the kids laid out so that they know each day what time frame we're working on things. Again, this is a time frame, a routine. It's not a super tight schedule. We have our group work, which is a 2-hour block where we will be doing all group assignments, such as our mystery activity and history of us, crash course, science lessons, that kind of stuff will all be done during group work time, a 2-hour block. Then we have individual work for 2 hours, and that's when they're going to be working on their language arts, math, Rosetta Stone, more of those core subjects. So this is our basic block schedule plan for next year. All right, now that you've seen an overview of our plan, our 4-week routine, and our daily block schedule, now is when we get into the nitty-gritty. Obviously, I spent some time getting those things ready in advance so that I could sit down and do the nitty-gritty. I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be planning retroactively, but there are still a few things that I need to have planned out in advance because I need to know what I have to have prepped and all that. I'm going to take some time to plan out a few of these, and then I will pop open the books after I've planned it out to show you what it looks like in my planner. So I will see you in just a second. Here I have the 3 binders for us to work with this coming school year. I've got the Bookworms binder, Beans binder, and my binder. They're all a little bit different, so I'm going to go through these one at a time. But just to give you an overview of how they all look and how they're connected, I wanted to show them to you all at once first. What I've done here is I've used my sticky note method that I used before, but tweaked it a little bit. The sticky notes are color-coded. Orange, as you can see, is for the group activities that we have in the morning. Pink is for Bean, and blue is for the bookworm. This first book is my guide to what we are doing during the week. This book has the extra materials I have back here in the tabs for the different lessons and other resources that I need throughout the year. But for today's video, we're going to focus on this lesson plan and then the time tracking, which I'll point out in just a second. The nice thing about doing the sticky notes is that if we don't get to Rosetta Stone, say on Monday, I can just move it to Tuesday where we have time. I don't have to erase or scratch anything out. It's easy. And I know it looks like a lot, but don't worry, I'm not using sticky notes every single time. I'm going to reuse this lesson. So if we completed, say Rosetta Stone is on Monday, we completed that, I would write in for each of the girls how much time they spent on Rosetta Stone or what lesson they completed, or however I want to record that they did Rosetta Stone on that day. I'm going to take this sticky note. I'm going to look at my booklet here and I'm going to say, when's the next time I do it? And it would be Wednesday of the following week. And I'm just going to plop it right there. So I don't have to go through and write Rosetta Stone. Now I could do 2 weeks worth of sticky notes. I could do 1 week's worth of sticky notes, however I want to do it. But basically they just keep hopping forward as we go through the year so that I don't have to go through and write constantly what we need to do, and so that we can easily adjust when necessary. Let's stick this guy back in here. All right, now you can see the lessons are pretty vague. I've got for ELA, Bean Bean will be working in Write Shop Junior, and the bookworm will be working in Lightning Literature. I did that for a reason. 2 reasons. First, so that I can reuse the sticky note and move it forward. The second reason is because, as I've mentioned, I'm trying to do more student-led and let them work at their own pace. So I don't want to assign them necessarily, you're going to complete lesson 1 or math problems 9 through 17. As long as they're spending a decent amount of time on it, they have a 2-hour time block for their individual activities in the afternoon to complete them all. If they spend 30 minutes on math and an hour on Lightning Literature and 30 minutes on Rosetta Stone, that takes up their 2-hour time block. They can divide that kind of however they want, except for math, I'm going to say they need to do at least 30 minutes every time they have math. But then I can retroactively record what they completed when they're done, and then just take this sticky note and move it like I showed you for the Rosetta Stone to the next lesson. So if I connect that to the bookworms, for example, she's got 30 to 60 minutes on math, and she has broke down just what she needs to do. So she doesn't need to look at mine and understand what her sister's doing as well. She just needs to look at hers and understand what she is doing. Now, same thing, as she goes through, when she completes the lesson or a particular activity, she can take that sticky note and she can just set it aside here or wherever else in the book where I can get to it later. She'll save it. She'll write down what she did. So maybe for poetry tea time, she chose to read a particular poem. She'll write down the poem that she read, or notes from the lesson. For math, she'll write down the lesson she did, and she will write down the time in a small box in the corner. Say she spent 45 minutes on math, then she'll write down 45 in the corner. At the end of the week, or at the end of the day, whenever I want to, I can get into their bin and I can pull out their binder, which will have any lessons they've completed that get pulled out of their lesson books in here for me to look at and check, and a reading log here in the back for me to check their work. All their extra sticky notes will be up here or somewhere in here, and I will take them and move them to the next lesson. I've only put 2 weeks worth of lessons on here because I didn't want to overwhelm them, but I'll reuse the sticky notes and put it on the next week's lesson so they can see what's coming up. This also allows them to work ahead if they want to, so that they know what's coming up. For Lightning Literature, for her, I will be asking her to complete week 1 within that week, but she can divide the work however she wants to, and she can look back here in her ELA section and see these are the things that need to be done for week 1. She's got a checklist. If she does all 5 of those on day 1, then that's totally fine. She just writes in here what she completed, puts her little time signature there, and then maybe she doesn't do Lightning Literature on Wednesday, but chooses to work on something else. When she turns in those times to me, I will connect them to, let's see, right here, I have It's actually a family attendance record, but I'm using it to record the amount of time she spends. So this would be math. Let's say on day 1 she spends 45 minutes on math. I would put a 45 in here. If she chooses to play math games on the computer or some other math related activity, I can add those in here as well. But at the end of the year, I should be able to look back and see how much time she spent on math. That will be useful as she gets to high school and we're looking to record credit hours and figure out how much credit she's earning for the different subjects. So again, this is more of a practice year for her, but I think it'll help both her and I get ready for the following year in a less stressful way, because if we mess it up, then that's okay. We've got time to make adjustments and fix it. So the last one that I have is beans. And the only difference with hers is that we're not worrying about recording the time. But she'll do the same thing. She'll take it out, she'll put it in here. She's got the tabs to put her materials that she finishes that she wants to turn into me at the end of the week. And I will have a copy of this as well as the block schedule for both of them in their binders, probably in a sheet protector, so they can see easily what the weekly and daily plan is. If you have any questions about how we're planning and the methods that I use for this coming year for planning, please let me know. If you have suggestions and you're like me and you've been very, very structured and you're trying to be a little bit less structured, a little bit more freestyle for the kids, and you have tips on how to do that, share them. I'd love to hear them, or maybe somebody else would too. So thank you for joining me for this video, and I will catch you next time.